An armed conflict between Israel and Hamas-led Palestinian militant groups. The war has led to a severe humanitarian crisis in Gaza. The health system is in a state of partial collapse. The war still continues with U.S. military and diplomatic support for Israel, which has been condemned by various human rights groups. And I'll recreate yours.
All right. Well, okay.
Let's say the OceanGate submersible was filled with poor people instead of rich billionaires. How do you think that changes kind of the social media reaction? These people pay $250,000 per seat to go fucking die in the middle of the ocean. Well, someday when Travis Kelce writes his tell-all book, I'm telling you there's going to be a chapter about how his PR people arranged with Taylor Swift's PR people to have this public relationship to benefit both parties. And all the Republicans are like, see, all these transgender people are going around killing all of our kids. I've had a lot of boners on this episode today. That is my first context boner of the day, though. It's a new year, but it's just as doomed as the last one. I'm joined today by my guest sidekick host, the returning Brad Choma, host of his own podcast called Doomsday, history's most dangerous podcast. Brad, do you have any 2024 resolutions you'd like to share?
Yeah, my 2024 resolution is literally just to spend more time here on the tennis show. Because my own shows give me agita. So if I come here, it's so relaxing. And I find it, I know I've told you in the past that I find it very stressful to be on this show. But honestly, when I look into those baby blacks, I guess they are, I can't really tell what your eye color is. And what I am assuming is a $14 haircut.
If it was $14, I would feel like I ripped the other person off. Pretty good. This is the hair of a man that avoids getting haircuts as long and as often as possible. It's about time, though.
Well, I'm hoping to come down to Oklahoma before the end of February so that I can do whatever it was we were talking about before to you, and maybe I can cut your hair.
There's a lot of stuff we got to do. I got a whole list of activities we're going to do together. Remember on our largest Oregon episode, we had a whole thing about how you're going to come down here and cut me up and all kinds of stuff like that.
I absolutely do. And I have to do a bunch of stuff with your mom, too. Nothing bad.
I thought it was me with your mom, but maybe I can't remember. But
I'm pretty sure it's me and your mom, and it's mostly me breaking the news about stuff that we did together during my visit.
How about we just agree we're both going to do stuff to each other's moms? We'll call it good, just to be safe. Bradley, I'm so informed and aware that you're here today.
Accurate. Go on.
This is the first new Maine episode of 2024 for Tennis Podcast. And the last time you were here,
yes,
we talked about something a little more in the Doomsday History's Most Dangerous Podcast category, which was the deadliest man-made events in human history. Today, we're going to go a smidge lighter, although there's still a lot of doom and despair to be had.
I love it. What am I here for? Please tell me why I'm here.
Bradley, as I'm sure you're aware, Google publishes every year its year-end search report at trends.google.com. Okay? Which means Google, the world's largest search engine, measures search volume for a particular topic to see what is trending for the year versus the prior year. And today, I'm telling you all this because today we're covering the top 10 most Google searched news stories of the last year, of 2023. The things that people search for most on Google as it relates to news.
So the top 10-ish most newsworthy things that occurred during the last calendar year, according to an algorithm based on people typing using their fingers. I got all that.
We don't know that they're using their fingers. They could have been using their voice. They could have been using their toes. They could have been using their winky. They could have been using their duodendum.
I'm going to be so lost.
Yes, you got it. Things that people are searching on Google as it relates to news events. You're guessing the top 10 based on global search traffic. This is global news.
Okay, so here's a question. So globally, though, so Taylor Swift does something and half of America's nuts, but other parts of the world don't care.
Half of Canada, too.
All of Canada. What's wrong with you? How will I know what is the most important? Will you help guide me in my decision-making process here as we do our little dance?
Of course I'll guide you. As you have proven, you need like a lot of guidance, like enough guidance to where I feel exhausted by the end of our episodes together. Well, listen, the Taylor Swift example is a good one because although Taylor Swift did not make this list today for her romance, which may or may not be bought by the Kansas City Chiefs to Travis Kelce, everything on this list are things that affect the world, people all over the world. So there's no like U.S. presidential election on here, right? Not that there was a presidential election last year, but you get my point.
Travis Kelce is off the list. He's spoken for. So, I mean, that has a general kind of a trickle-down effect to the rest of the world. We all have to accept and move on.
Well, someday when Travis Kelce writes his tell-all book, I'm telling you there's going to be a chapter about how his PR people arranged with Taylor Swift's PR people to have this public relationship to benefit both parties. And maybe I'm being super pessimistic, but
they're both listeners of the show, so you'll probably get an early copy, or they'll just phone you and let you know, hey, just so you know, here's what we're going to say about you.
Yeah, about me. Oh, why am I? Oh, they're going to acknowledge that I had the theory in the book?
Well, they're probably going to want to clear with you just so you're not like completely caught off guard when they're talking about, the inspiration, the hair, like the backup. Oh, just being on tour, listening to his past episodes.
They always skipped episode 230 and episode, those ones with that old Canadian on them that
love those
couldn't
ones.
Stop talking about Nick's hair.
Ever. Not even for a minute. When this is over, I'll just be sitting here just talking to your hair.
When you leave this room, the next person you see, you're just going to be talking about my hair.
I just
did this podcast.
I'm dedicating the rest of this show to recreating your hair with my own.
Okay. Do it. Go ahead. And I'll recreate yours.
All right. Hold on. Okay. This is what the screen record is for. Hold on. Where did it comes down? But there's a bump up here. And then the rest comes down. And it sits over here.
I have to like a little bit of...
Hey, I'm Nick. Welcome to my show. I feel like Nick now. Hey, it's me.
You remind me of Michael Scott pretending to be Jim in The Office. Do you remember that? I don't know if you watch The Office.
I am familiar. I've seen this.
Yes. Okay. Well, for the many listeners that are loving this video content we're providing right now.
Are they literally just combing their own hair? Yes, listeners. Yes.
I'll post a picture of my hair and Brad's hair, and you at home can try to do your hair like ours as you listen. But I'm gonna get us on topic here and turn you loose. My data today comes from obviously Google and their trends.google.com report. Some notes from Associated Press, CNN, Wikipedia. Bradley, what do you think worldwide was the most searched news headline of the year in 2023?
It's going to sound really dumb, but I'm almost going to say as a global thing, it's a very American thing, but very recently there were a series of strikes. I believe it started with, maybe it was automotive. There was a historical strike. I can't remember how many other unions jumped on board. And then it was writers and it was actors. And everyone lost their freaking minds. And people cut down trees. And no one could go to the movies. And everything was awful.
Were people cutting down trees?
Yeah, in LA for the strikers. They used to have shade trees up and down the street. But the studios cut them all down to make sure that everyone got melanoma. Right.
Of course. Well, you got to. I mean, you have to.
Well, that's page 1.
Yeah, paragraph 1. I'm surprised, but no, that is... I didn't even think about it until you brought it up, but that's not on the list, but I'm surprised it's not, yeah.
Okay, well, I only said that because I was thinking about it. That's my warm-up guess. My actual guess is going to be more disaster-based.
Yes.
Because that's my bread and butter. And I literally had 2 messages today from a listener. In the one, he was desperate to know if I would...
Every listener emailed you today.
They all got together and they pool mailed me a single message. They wanted to know, will I ever do an episode on the Ocean Gate sub that exploded? And then the second message that came in said, oh, you did that on Patreon. I'm excited and I'm going to go check it out. Mm-hmm. They answered their own question. So I'm going to throw out there. Well, they picked up their popcorn because they were so excited because everyone told them that all these people were still alive and they were billionaires floating around at the bottom of the ocean, didn't know what to do, and they were just peeing into corners or whatever they were doing, and then summarily put down their popcorn when they realized, well, that was never the case, and who do we point fingers at now that this thing imploded? And you're still playing with your hair, and I am no closer to knowing if I am even on the list of the 10 most fascinating things that may have happened last year.
The Titanic submarine, also known as Ocean Gate disaster, whatever you want to call it, Ocean Gate, is the second item on this list. It is number 2.
Oh,
the
you're
second
kidding.
Most Google searched news item in the world in 2023.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's some good schadenfreude.
And you done an episode on a bonus episode, Patreon episode, so I know you're familiar with this. But I'm going to give an overview and you fill in the gaps for me here, okay? So on June 18th, 2023, Titan, a submersible operated by American tourism and expeditions company OceanGate, imploded during an expedition to view the wreck of the Titanic in the North Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Newfoundland. On board the submersible were Stockton Rush, the American CEO of OceanGate, Paul Henry Nargeolet, a French deep sea explorer and Titanic expert, Hamish Harding, a British businessman, Shahzada Dawood, a Pakistani-British businessman, and Dawood's son, Sulman. Brad's loving this. Okay.
Nailed it.
The voyage was booked in early 2023 when Stockton Rush, again, he's the CEO of OceanGate, he approached Las Vegas businessman Jay Bloom with 2 discounted tickets, intending for him and his son to be on the trip too. But the billionaire was offered a price of $150,000 per seat rather than the full price of $250,000 per seat. Fuck. With Rush claiming that it was, quote, safer than crossing the street. But Bloom turned down the offer over safety concerns, and that ended up saving his life because he didn't go on it.
Bloom turned down the offer because although everything that you stipulated was true, or everything that you just said was true, it was never stipulated that this was a return trip, that it was $250,000 for what was, in all likelihood, a one-way trip. And that freaked him out.
But they had done this trip before and come back.
Yeah, and everybody who did it had to go into therapy for trauma from listening to the hull creak and crack around them, and all sorts of craziness happened. Thank you, but no.
It is crazy that anybody did this, and they pay these people pay $250,000 per seat to go fucking die in the middle of the ocean. I mean,
without even a seat to be had, they were sitting. What do you call it? Crisscross applesauce. This cross-legged thing that they.
That's a cross-legged thing. Yep.
Yeah, and then
well, you can do it at any age. You don't have to be in kindergarten. To be fair.
I know the sub lost stability and it tilted down to one side, which means everybody basically rolled into a dog pile at the bottom of this thing, still with their legs crossed, in the dark, plummeting until they finally imploded.
When they were plummeting, they weren't plummeting with like a lot of speed, right? Or were they? It was like a
at that point
slow kind of descent.
No, I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure it was fairly quick. I know the implosion was exceedingly quick.
Right before that, communication between Titan, which was the submarine, and its mothership Polar Prince, it's a great name, Polar Prince, I love that, was lost 1 hour, 45 minutes into the dive. Authorities were alerted when it failed to resurface at the scheduled time later that day. After the submersible had been missing for 4 days, a remotely operated underwater vehicle, or an ROV, discovered a debris field containing parts of Titan about 500 meters or 1,600 feet from the bow of the Titanic.
And the only reason it took that long for them to find out is because these people were using an iPad in the dark, which may or may not have continued to work, and they didn't chime in for the Wi-Fi, for the extended Wi-Fi. So they couldn't, no one was able to signal from the vessel to the surface because they didn't want to spend the money on the extra communications.
As in the company.
Otherwise there would be tweets and texts and whatnot as part of the public record already.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that.
Nope.
And
they didn't want to spend the extra $27.
$250K per seat. You think they could just put some fucking Wi-Fi in there?
You might think that. Sure, you can think all sorts of things like, "Hey, don't go,"
I do think
or here's an extra $27. Could I maybe talk to my parents or whatever while I'm down there?
The search area was informed by the U.S. Navy sonar detection suggested the pressure hull had imploded while Titan was descending, resulting in the instantaneous deaths of all 5 occupants. So that's good, instantaneous, right? If you're gonna implode, it'd be better to be instantaneous, I'd think.
Yeah, in that sentence, you don't want a slow implosion. What's a slow implosion?
A slow implosion is like when you slow-mo a video of a bowling ball going to a fat guy's belly. Going into Dr. Buster's ass.
Like
bowling ball hitting it.
The circus guy just taking a cannonball in the stomach, or Dr. Buster just blowing away some bad guys at his door with his clapping booty, but caught on the Ring camera and replayed in slow-mo in beautiful 1080p.
Why do you sigh when you talk about the booty clapping booty as if it's a bad thing?
I don't know. I've never actually felt it, and I can't do it myself, but a boy can dream.
Think about the most recent weather event in your local area, be it a hurricane or a storm.
You're asking like incidental clappage?
I can't tell you that was not a side effect of clapping somewhere at some point. I can't. I mean, it might not have been, but it can't. I see a Snorlax back there, a stuffed Snorlax.
He's my buddy. All right, listen. I'm going to do something for you, and only for you and your millions of listeners. All right.
More video content?
No, not this time. It's more audio. Listen, okay. Hold on. Let me pull off my pants. Okay. Got my pants down. All right. Ready? I'm going to clap my boot, and you can listen. Did you hear it? Nick, you okay?
That was your ass cheeks clapping together?
Smacking together, yeah. Wild abandon. Hold on, one more time.
It's so light and dainty. Because, Buster's is like a thick...
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I'm like, slow clap. Yeah, like, well done.
But yours was very, ladylike and polite.
A little bit. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not trying to take anything away from Buster here. I'm not auditioning or anything to, for
No.
Canada's Greatest Boot Clap or whatever, but it's a thing. You know what we should do? We should move on to something else.
Well, let me try to tell you
All right.
about this Titanic thing.
Oh,
The
for God's sakes.
psychologist Pamela Rutledge, listener of the show, she's an expert in social media and mass media. She said that the Titan incident was widely treated on social media as entertainment, like you said, with people and their popcorn. Key elements include the allure of disasters, fascination with the wealthy, conspiracy theories, uncertainty, and the mythology surrounding the Titanic, as well as the romance of rescue operations. Now, this psychologist, Pamela Rutledge, opined that the trend displayed a lack of accountability and empathy, which is, I mean, how do you argue that?
You can't. Well, actually, you can. I can.
Okay, do it.
So the other half of that psychological coin on the topic of people not having any kind of natural empathy towards billionaires is because empathy is something that we as humans kind of learned as an adaptation once we started grouping. You know what I mean? Like, we weren't just chasing animals anymore. We were growing things and we were becoming more communal. So when you have something like a billionaire that is so singular and uniquely not part of your group, like just inherently selfish and not sharing, it's actually psychologically damaging for the average person to, like, oh, those poor billionaires with their, wiping their tears away with their $100,000 bills or whatever. That is
Brad,
really,
there are no
it's
$100,000 bills, Brad.
And I did not know that. And I don't know how I would know that, because people like me because I'm poor and they can relate.
I have to say that my favorite thing about you is how poor you are, for sure.
Thank you.
But that makes sense from like a human society development kind of.
Yeah, it's really us versus them
standpoint.
And it would be weird to be on their side, frankly, because they're just not a part of our community. You would never interact with one and they would never have anything to do with you. You have more empathy for different animal species than you do billionaire members 100%. Of your own species.
For sure. But do you think if this exact same experience happened, let's say there was a Willy Wonka contest, and instead of getting to tour the factory, a poor person touring his chocolate factory, now you're a poor person going on this Titanic submarine, the Ocean Gate. Let's say the Ocean Gate submersible was filled with poor people instead of rich billionaires. How do you think that changes kind of the social media reaction?
Social media would look at the inhuman living queefs on the boat alive up top, trying to pretend that they know what just happened below, and poor victims who could barely afford the iPad, let alone have any kind of, engineering background, any kind of aquatic background, they're along for the ride. They're victims as much as the actual billionaires were along for the ride and victims, except that they were rich. And I mean, really, that's the dividing line. Like, you take poor people,
families will probably be okay.
A poor person will give you a shirt. A poor person will give you $1. A poor person would share a story or try to make you feel better. Like, there are little simple things that people can do for free that you would never expect in a million years from a billionaire, because where would a billionaire even start? They're so far above us. Where would they start? How would they ever make humanity empathize for them? They can only really do one thing at a time, and they rarely ever do anything. So
I'll tell you what they do. All the billionaires listening, you buy Tennis Podcast, you buy the licensing rights for it. You make me a billionaire.
Okay.
And then I'll join your billionaire club and talk to you about empathy and shit. That's what.
So you're saying that once you're a billionaire, that we can somehow bridge this gap together, and we can help people do whatever it is I'm doing with my hands. Brad's
putting his fist together.
That's right.
I think that the key to humans coming together and being less divided over wealth class is for me to become a billionaire, me, Nick Emel, and bridge the gap between the poor man and the rich man. I just think it's the most efficient way.
I don't really have a counter argument. I think that's great. Okay, get to work, I guess, is the thing.
Okay.
Be better.
Someone's got to make me a billionaire first. If you want to help me become a billionaire, go to tennispod.com/plus and sign up. You'll get no ads, and you'll help me be one step closer to being a billionaire.
Actually, I would implore everyone to do the same, because I can't wait to talk to Nick as a billionaire once he's wearing a monocle and he's just like cutting me off every sentence.
And my haircut goes from $14 to $18.
Oh my God. Don't say it. That's okay.
One more thing about
from
this,
here, by the way?
The Titanic, my closing line on this is that there's a movie in development. Probably not surprising, right? I'm a little surprised how quick, but there's a movie in development about this incident. It's called Salvaged, and it's in development as of September 2023.
Really? Is it going to have like circus clown music playing in the background?
I think I did read that, yeah.
Come on, hop in. No questions asked. Well, all right, here we go.
Starring Tom Hanks, because who else? And for each of these search things, I have the peak month for search on Google, June on this one, because that's when it happened, as well as the related queries. So what else were people searching in relation to this news item? One of them is missing submarine.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to the submarine? And my favorite, submarine controller. Because if you remember, there was all this to-do about the
entirely poorly rated Logitech joystick.
No, it was not a Logitech. It was, or maybe it was, but I thought it was like an off-brand,
I think it was made by Logitech, and it got 1 star on Amazon. So it keeps turning off. It keeps veering to the right. Like, oh God, Lord, nobody reads.
Let's have it control 5 billionaires as they descend to the deepest parts of the universe that man has ever been. Okay, so that was number 2, the Titanic / OceanGate incident.
That's a pretty good dart to throw right off the bat.
That was a good one.
What the hell else happened last year?
There's the most notes I had was on that, so everything else will be a little more snappy.
Hi, everyone. Stephen Clark here to say that I think we can all agree that the news these days is almost all bad. Wars and scandals and insurrections and those goddamn expensive Taylor Swift tickets. But I'm here to tell you that not all news is bad, because my number one news source is the Tennis Podcast newsletter. It's a free monthly newsletter delivered right to my inbox that helps me stay up to date on the latest world news, like a first look at the upcoming Tennis Podcast episodes. Newsletter subscribers like me know the topics for a month's worth of upcoming episodes way in advance. And that means that I knew the topic of the episodes you're listening to right now like a month ago. It's like I'm a time traveler. Plus, as a newsletter subscriber, I get to consume Dr. Buster's exclusive blog, The Sidekick Corner. It's the next best thing to grabbing a handful of dap booty. If that's not enough, the newsletter also features behind-the-scenes updates from Nick, merch discount codes, and more. You just go to tennispod.com/newsletter, enter your email address, and you're in. You'll get the next Tennis Podcast newsletter in your inbox just like that. The link is in the show notes. Now, turn off that boring Fox News and come join me in getting the only news source you truly need, the Tennis Podcast newsletter.
Okay, so if we're trying to figure out what comes next, I would say...
Put yourself in the brain of all the poor people out there doing a Google search, Brad.
All right. I sure wish I could afford a computer.
Just go to the library,
not helpful at all.
Asshole.
Oh,
Just go to the library. God damn, you
choice.
Poor people always bitching about your computers.
I'm going to say it's not the Ukraine war, because everyone's forgotten about that. Yep. It was only supposed to be 3 days. I'm pretty sure this is its 3rd calendar year or something.
Yeah, I don't know when it started. It was at least most of 2022, I want to say, but I don't know for sure.
But I don't think it's really made any... I don't imagine... Is it on the list is what I'm trying to say. I can't imagine. However,
there are other wars on here, but not that.
Wars plural? Oofa
wars,
doofa.
Plural.
All right. Well, I'm going to chime in with another one, the more recent one, as of October, I believe, when the Hamas faction of the Palestinian people decided to do some crazy hang glider raid into Israel, and asked for it apparently, and it's been going on ever since.
Gaza.
Yeah, that's got to be on there. And it's got to be pretty high, I would think.
So where? Tell me where.
Well, obviously, I'm just going to say number 1 right off the bat. How did I do?
You sure?
I'm
giving you a chance to take it back.
Is this really good or just super good? How did I do?
It's spot on. It's spot on, Brad.
Hot damn.
So for all those listeners that leave reviews complaining about how stupid and dumb and idiotic Brad is and that we don't want him back on the show, take that. Brad can guess number 1 sometimes. Once.
And I would like to point out that, for the sake of empathy, how not overly excited I am to have correctly guessed war as the most searched and exciting news story from the
where would humans
year.
be if not for war, Brad? We'd have nothing to talk about.
We would just hold hands and we would just hands across America around the world and sing songs together all the time. No, you know what? We would just pick on lawyers. It would be another one of us versus them, but it wouldn't be a global conflict. Just us versus the lawyers.
Why lawyers? Am I missing something?
I don't know, but I guarantee you,
lawyers.
If you ask 10-ish listeners right now, what do you hate more than lawyers? I'm thinking it would take a few seconds for them to come up with something.
At least, yeah. Huh. Food for thought. Okay, well, Brad, it is number one, the war in Israel and Gaza. And I know you've been saving all your hot takes for this one, so go ahead. Drop all your hot takes about the war, whose side you're on, who started it, who's wrong, who's going to win. Just drop it all right now, right here. All on the record.
All right. On the record. I just wish people could get along. I know it's an awful lot to ask.
The wrong answer, because an armed conflict between Israel and Hamas-led Palestinian militant groups has been taking place chiefly in and around the Gaza Strip since October 7th of last year, with clashes also taking place in the West Bank and Israel-Lebanon border. On that day, militant groups launched a surprise attack on southern Israel from the Gaza Strip, marking the start of the most significant military escalation in the region since the Yom Kippur War in 1973. After clearing Hamas militants, the Israeli military retaliated by conducting an extensive aerial bombardment campaign on Hamas targets, followed by a large-scale ground invasion of Gaza. The current hostilities constitute the fifth war of the Gaza-Israel conflict, which is part of the broader Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So this shit's been going on forever, and it's going to continue for the foreseeable future.
And I'll be honest, probably about 6 months ago, we probably should have talked about this maybe about 6 months ago, but like 6 months ago, I basically actively stopped paying attention to the news just as a mental health thing. And certainly it is much, much easier to simply not pay attention. Much less easy when you then go on a podcast about what happened in said news. But when it comes to this conflict, I mean, I recognize how important it is, but I actually felt okay in my decision to try to remain neutral or inert or just out of the reporting, because in the time that I did spend on the internet seeing other people speak about this confidently, I feel much more comfortable knowing that there are so many experts out there who know exactly why everybody is wrong and what they did wrong and what they should have done. So I'm just glad that the world is in good hands in my absence in that fashion.
For sure. And look, I am not an expert on this war. I know you're not either. And so I'm just not going to offer an opinion on it. How's that? But I'll read you a few more statements of fact. Nearly all of Gaza's 2.3 million population and around 500,000 Israelis have been internally displaced. The war has led to a severe humanitarian crisis in Gaza due to, quote, low and irregular flow of food and other humanitarian supplies. The health system is in a state of partial collapse. Most hospitals are out of service, and there are acute shortages of drinking water, food, fuel, and medical supplies. Israel has also conducted mass detentions with thousands of Palestinians detained or disappeared in Israel and the occupied Palestinian territories. Lastly, the war still continues with U.S. military and diplomatic support for Israel, which has been condemned by various human rights groups and has also led to increased isolation of the two.
And in saying that, as you were saying that, I'm listening to your words, and all I'm thinking is substitute Yemen or Sudan or any of the flamingly hot active war zones around the world right now. And I always just wonder, why is it some stories get so much coverage and others don't? Why is this repeated conflict more important than someone else's suffering? I don't have an answer for that. Is fire anywhere on the list?
Could you be more specific, please?
Did any place catch on fire in such a noteworthy fashion?
Lots of places. So listen, these did not make the top 10 worldwide, but I included them as honorable mentions because they did make the top 10 when looking only at American Google search traffic. There are two fires in there in my honorable mentions. The Maui fires. I have less notes because these are honorable mentions, but in early August 2023, a series of wildfires broke out in the U.S. state of Hawaii, predominantly on the island of Maui. The wind-driven fires prompted evacuations, caused widespread damage, killing at least 100 people and leaving 4 persons missing in the town of
Lahaina
on Maui's northwest coast. The damage caused by the fire has been estimated at nearly $6 billion. And of course, how else do you measure devastation if not by U.S. dollars?
I do it in liters of blood or Dodge Caravans, depending on the context.
Right. Big fan of the Dodge Caravan.
And actually, I didn't know any of that, what you just said, because in what I had read on the internet about what had happened was that it was space lasers were fired to specifically destroy blocks of houses so that they could be redeveloped and have new ownership.
This the MTG conspiracy theory?
Oh, I don't know. It could have been on Facebook or Twitter or any of those things. Who can even say? It's where the experts are. You go where the fish are, and the fish are screaming all over the internet that this was a space laser.
Well, if any experts out there want to come on so I could have my first expert on this show, you're informing me today. I did not know that aliens government strategically planned these fires in Maui.
Oh, yeah, apparently. I mean, you just spend a little cursory time on like TikTok or something, and you can learn a lot.
Yeah, TikTok. The best thing to ever happen to humanity, by God. And you can follow Tennis Podcast on TikTok at Tennis Pod. But let's talk a little more close to home, Bradley. There were some more fires last year, closer to your neck of the woods.
Oh, God, yeah. When Quebec burned down.
Those also made my honorable mentions list. The Canada wildfires, because beginning in March and with increased intensity starting in June, Canada has been affected by an ongoing record-setting series of wildfires. All 13 provinces and territories have been affected, although to be fair, only like 3 or 4 territories have more than like 40 people living on them. But all 13 provinces
they all have a reason to be there.
have been affected. The 2023 wildfire season has seen the most area burn in Canada's recorded history, as well as in recorded North American history, surpassing the 2020 Western U.S. wildfire season. As of October 6th of last year, over 6,500 fires had burned about 5% of the entire forest area of Canada, which is insane.
That is
insane. As of
October
6th, 772 wildfires are still active. This is as of October. And 346 of those were deemed out of control. The total acreage burnt was more than 2.5 times the previous record.
On behalf of my people, I would like to apologize, because I do remember you complaining quite bitterly that although up here we're like, ooh, look at the sky. Down there you're like, I can't see my hands. It's all smoke, because all of our smoke just shot. Yeah.
I was in New York during like the height of the Quebec fires.
It's where we store our smoke.
And then the maple syrup's in Toronto.
It's safe. It's safe.
And the mooses are in Vancouver.
They know what to do.
Yeah. But I was in New York in June, and I went outside, and it looked like Brad's podcast come to life, Doomsday. It was just, it was the craziest thing I've ever seen, honestly. The sky was bright orange.
Yeah. And
people were walking around in masks, like they were telling you not to come outside. And we were in New York, however many hundreds of miles away that is from Quebec. So yeah, it was a big deal.
It's like a 10-hour drive from here to New York, from basically the border to New York. So sorry.
Sorry about you. Sorry to boot. Sorry I boot that.
Sorry boot that.
Yeah. Okay, that's it for fire.
God damn it. What else happened last year? Think.
Let me know if you need some guidance.
Well, I don't want to be guided, but I'd love a whimsical clue. Something.
Let's get the other war out of the way so we don't end on the war later.
Oh, good point. All right. Who else was pissed off at each other? Who was not pissed off at each other?
I'll tell you that the regions where this was most Google was South Sudan, Uganda, Ethiopia, Kenya.
Oh, I was going to actually ask if this was, because I know they didn't actually go to war, but I was thinking of Taiwan and China.
No.
And now I'm thinking Africa. But wait, I'm thinking Northeast Africa, so...
I'm just going to tell you. It's the war in Sudan.
Oh, so I already got that.
Did you say that earlier?
I did. When we were discussing Israel, I was thinking Yemen and places like this, and again, to the point, why is one more newsworthy than another?
Newer, I guess. Who's to say?
Tell me.
But this, because the war in Israel and Gaza was number 1. This is all the way down to number 10. So, number 10, the war in Sudan, a war between the Sudanese armed forces and the paramilitary forces. Rival factions of the military government of Sudan began on the 15th of April during Ramadan. As of October, between 9,000 and 10,000 people had been killed and 6,000 to 12,000 others injured. And as of December 23rd, over 5 million were internally displaced and more than 1.5 million others had fled the country as refugees. Attempts by international powers to negotiate a ceasefire culminated in the Treaty of Jeddah, which did not stop the fighting and was abandoned as ineffective. Further negotiations have produced no significant results.
Maybe that's why it slid.
There's no news. You got to keep. So who's the marketing guy for the war in Sudan? We need to talk.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. You got to make it interesting. Balloon attacks. Yeah. Like you need visuals. You need something interesting. But when it's just I think we all take for granted that if you live in a country that has a separate country with the same name, the Koreas, the Sudan and South Sudan. I mean, these are countries that automatically, by definition, just hate each other. So you kind of take it for granted. So you don't really, if Canada and the U.S. went to war, damn, that would be exciting. That'd be really something else for like 25 minutes, but the internet would go crazy.
Like if America and Canada went to war and America takes Canada, that'd be something.
I guess.
Well, you guys are already like our little brother. Now it'd be
pretty much
official.
Yeah, but we've got some pretty interesting governance here. Like, my first thought is, oh, good, our government decided to like clap and whistle Russia over to join us in our little skirmish here. Because I don't know, the government just seems to do whatever it seems to want to do, which makes a lot of people really nervous. So I could see them doing something insane like that.
Tell you what, let's not talk about it.
Right. We stay friends.
America and Canada, who knows? Maybe someday they'll go to war. Not anytime soon. But some related searches on Google to the war in Sudan, the Sudan genocide was one. South Sudan versus Philippines, and maybe you could.
Uh-oh, you froze up on me. Nick. I had Nick, and now I've got no Nick. There was Nick, but he was not all night long. Once a Nick, and Nick, wicked Nick, but the now where my Nick has gone. Could you hear anything?
No.
Damn it, I sang a whole song about you.
You did not.
I did.
You're full of shit. Sing it again.
Nope. Okay, how did it begin? First, I was just singing Nick, oh Nicka, 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 and then I was starting to get worried about where it was going. And I miss my little Nick, he's gone. So I said and sing my Nick a sing song, but my Nick, he cannot sing along.
I hate it.
It's all in the recording. You can
angry.
keep it.
I'm angry.
Just set it to music and off you go.
That was.
So we're recording now.
Yeah, we're recording now. I had asked you if you knew why FIBA World Cup came up as a related search to the war in Sudan.
What? You did? I didn't hear any of that. Ask me the question again, because I'm sure it'll catch me off guard.
When people were searching for the war in Sudan on Google.
Hold on, I'm having an idea.
I can't do this. Can you try to have a mastermind and give another guess?
It's 2023. Oh, wait a minute. I'm forgetting the most obvious one. How excited everybody was when it was New Year's Day 2023. Is that on the list?
You might have misunderstood a second ago when I said to give another guess, not say things that happened in the last calendar year.
But that is literally the job. That's what this is all about. I'm literally just
New
trying
Year's
to remember.
Day happens every year, Brad. There's nothing newsworthy about it.
I don't know. The networks kind of get excited. That drunk guy on CNN gets kind of excited.
Let's go with Doomsday. Your whole podcast. What's it about? In one sentence.
People throwing up, people learning, people suffering, learning from other people's pain.
Okay, let's go with that. What happened last year? Several different things, all in the same category. Happens every year. They have names sometimes, usually.
Do you mean like weekends?
No.
Birthdays?
What are you talking, Brad? Okay, let's go back to let's go back to the.
Oh.
And there's Brad's. When that happens, that could cause a weather-related event such as a
hurricane.
Hurricane. There are 3 hurricanes on this list.
Oh.
Let's just knock them all out.
Actually, okay. All right. I can't by name because I can't remember any of the names, but what I'm going to ask right away is the hurricanes that were spinning out in the Pacific, which I guess are technically typhoons, but that we've started getting storms that were making their way towards Mexico and then just decided to alley-oop up to California, which was exceedingly rare and interesting. And is that on the list? The West Coast hurricanes. Damn,
Nope.
Really?
These are all.
Okay, so
there's one that affected Canada.
Hurricane
you know
Peter?
what? Maybe you're thinking of Hurricane Hillary.
Yes,
it says,
that's right.
Yeah, that's number 4. Hurricane Hillary was a large, potent Category 4 Pacific hurricane in August 2023, which brought torrential rainfall and gusty winds to the Pacific coast of Mexico, the Baja California Peninsula, and the southwestern United States, resulting in widespread flooding and numerous mudslides. It said here that there is persistent heavy rainfall, potentially more than a year's worth of rain in some areas.
It's pretty amazing.
That's insane.
Although, I mean, it's kind of known for not having that much, so still.
I heard I mentioned that to someone recently about like it was raining in California, and I was like, "Oh, good, you guys need it." And they said, "Well, yeah, but our reservoirs, I can never say that. Reservoirs, reservoirs,
Keep going. Hey, I'm not going to make fun of you for having this weird speech.
reservoirs are full, so any extra rain just gets lost. And some areas of the California region received up to 600% of their annual rainfall for the month.
6 times a year's worth.
No, 600%. Yeah, 6 times a year's worth of. So that was Hillary. There were 2 other hurricanes. One was Adelia, I think, which is number 5.
That's right, and Lee.
Lee, you're right.
But
so you do care about the victims of the hurricane. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess I kind of do. But yeah, it was just really bad with the letters this year because we went because they're alphabetical, and they keep changing up. And this year it's women's names, female names, not women's names. Well, I'm not even sure how to say this correctly anymore, but more traditionally feminine names. And so we had Hillary, which I thought would just annoy people because it's Hillary's name, and they're still just like Hillary.
They're like, check that hurricane's emails.
Yeah, exactly. And then Adelia, because that's not a name that anyone uses anymore. And then Lee, because it fits in Adelia, and it's kind of it's a gender neutral name.
Why don't they just name these hurricanes not after people names, but like things? Like instead of Hurricane Lee, it's Hurricane like fucking Boulder, Hurricane Tree. No.
I'm gonna do you one better. Within 20 years, it's gonna be TJ Maxx presents Hurricane trademark. You know what I mean? It's gonna be a thing.
TJ Maxx of all fucking things.
I don't know. I'm assuming they'll become more relevant in the future.
TJ Maxx is not among the first I'd mention.
It's okay. We don't even have them in Canada. I'm just pulling at threads. I'm predicting the future in an awkward fashion.
Yeah, sponsoring hurricanes. That's a thing. Because then, like, on all the weather coverage, on all the weather channels, on the apps, and all the shit that's covering this hurricane, you got that branding right there. That's marketing 101, man. You're right. Okay, well, we can dream. We can hope. Hurricane Adelia, that's number 5. It was a hurricane that did damage mostly in North Florida in August. Significant damage to thousands of homes, businesses, and infrastructure. Also spawned a tornado outbreak with around 12 confirmed tornadoes. It was the most powerful hurricane to hit Florida's Big Bend region since 1896, which I can't believe anyone in 1896 was even keeping records of. They're just like writing on, they got their stone tablet out and they're like, they're just writing.
Big. Where's the scientific background on it? Well, this guy wrote "holy shit" 113 times in his diary entry, so
exactly.
We have some empirical data.
Yeah. Okay, well, that one was Hurricane Adelia at 5. And number 6 is Hurricane Lee, which was a long-lived and very powerful Cape Verde hurricane that impacted Bermuda, the northeast U.S., and eastern Canada later in its lifetime, caused extensive power outages in the U.S. state of Maine and in the Canadian provinces of New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, which are the only 2 Canadian provinces I've ever been to, by the way.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Damn. Well, okay, we're going to have to fix that.
Niagara, I went to Niagara,
So you've been to Ontario.
But I was there for like 3 hours and I went back, so I don't count it.
So like you were at the airport, basically.
Well, I was at Niagara Falls, U.S., and I crossed the border and then walked around that.
Immediately crossed back. The air's too fresh. The people are too nice.
Exactly.
My is rebelling.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the Hurricane Lee killed at least 3 people that we know of, and happened in September. Or peak Google traffic was in September, at least.
So Hillary was 4 on the list.
Mm-hmm.
Adelia was 5, and Lee was 6.
That's what I said.
Wow, that's not very imaginative, but okay. I mean, this seems to be working out. I like a little symmetry.
And I got to tell you, the hurricanes are probably the happiest topic we'll talk about the rest of this list.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Is there such a thing as a rape storm yet? I mean, what else happened? Actually, okay.
Time. Sponsored by TJ Maxx, the rape storm.
Good Lord.
You hear that? Shh. Listen. That's the sound of another ad interrupting your podcast episode. Is there anything worse than another ad? But life doesn't have to be this way, dear listener. You could be skipping this very ad right now. In fact, you could skip all ads on Tennis Podcast. All you need is about 10 seconds and you can live your life 100% ad-free. Take those 10 seconds right now and go to tennispod.com/plus. Go ahead, pause this episode and do it right now. At tennispod.com/plus, you can easily sign up to become a TennisPod Plus member. As a member, you'll never hear an ad ever again. But wait, there's more.
Members also get access to about 70 exclusive bonus episodes that can't be heard anywhere else. But it's not just bonus episodes. Members also enjoy the exclusive members-only podcast, The Bookbuster, where our own Dr. Buster puts his real-life psychology doctoral degree to good use as he reviews a new psychology or self-help book every month. All bonus episodes and Bookbuster episodes can be listened to right in the very app you're listening to me on right now. No extra apps or know-how needed. There are more benefits too, like free swag, monthly giveaways, blooper reels, and more. So what are you waiting for? Pause my voice right now, take 10 seconds, and go sign up. By the way, if you're an Apple Podcast listener, sign up in just one tap at the top of our Apple Podcast page. So start your free 7-day trial now at tennispod.com/PLUS or on Apple Podcasts. Or don't sign up at all and sit through more ads right now. The choice is yours.
Okay, so better question. Are there other traditional natural disasters on the list?
Yeah, one.
Okay,
More.
so we did fire, we did hurricanes. What about earthquake?
Yep. What's the big earthquake last year?
I'm trying to remember. Again, an entire year's worth of earthquakes, so it wasn't Chile. Japan had a few, but it wasn't Japan.
This was called the deadliest natural disaster in modern history.
It's funny you say that, and I want to say Turkey, but I don't remember if Turkey had an earthquake last year or not.
It is.
Because they get
February of last
slammed. It wasn't in the Bam earthquake there's a part of Turkey called Bam, and it got the crap kicked out of it, but I think that was at least 5 years ago. Where in Turkey got slapped in February that I'm not remembering?
This is number 3, by the way. In February 2023, a 7.8 earthquake struck southern and central Turkey and northern and western Syria. The epicenter was that the one
remember.
you're thinking? Yeah.
Yeah.
The epicenter was 37 kilometers or 23 miles west to northwest of Gaziantep. That's bad. You know, I'm Turkish, by the way, so this is kind of bad for me. It was followed by a 7.7 magnitude earthquake shortly thereafter. It was felt as far as Egypt and the Black Sea coast of Turkey. There was more than 30,000 aftershocks in the 3 months that followed. Still less than a Dr. Buster's booty clap, but still.
Yeah, but
there was
not a
widespread
competition
damage in the area of about 140,000 square miles, or about the size of Germany. That's how widespread the damage was. An estimated 14 million people, or 16% of Turkey's population, were affected, and 1.5 million people were left homeless. The confirmed death toll stood at just under 60,000, most of those in Turkey, but about 9,000 from Syria. It is the deadliest earthquake in what is now present-day Turkey. The last earthquake at this scale in this area was in the year 526, as in, 1,500-something years ago. The Antioch earthquake, again, someone on a stone tablet just writing "holy shit" really big, I think. But this one that we're talking about in 2023, the deadliest natural disaster in modern history, killed 60,000 people. It's insane. 148 billion US dollars in damage to Turkey, or 9% of their entire GDP. And following their calls for international help, more than 141,000 people from 94 countries joined the rescue effort. So this was a big deal.
I'm going to have to refresh myself on that. We have not yet visited Turkey on my show, but we really should, because they get it. I mean, they just get it. When they get it, they get it.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying?
I do. And I'm glad that Turkey's eternal suffering is just good for a joke for you. I'm glad.
Man, think about what you're applauding here. It's official. He's worse than me. I just Uno reverse carded you just there.
That is a solid reference. I appreciate that. I just played Uno the other day with my daughter, and she reversed me, and I disowned her.
Well, at least I won't have to explain to her what the hell's happening in February when I come down to your home.
Who is this strange older Canadian at the door telling me that he needs to talk to my dad's mom?
Go play outside.
I need
Try not to think about what you're hearing there. Hey, sorry in advance.
And you'll bring the power of 1,000 Canadian wildfires with you.
Ding! Only in my heart, though.
So what's more depressing than an earthquake or a hurricane? Now, it's not. There's a lot less people died, but it's more depressing.
Was there like a puppy die-off that I'm not remembering, or I actively blocked some memory?
Pretty close.
Oh no! What died?
If you're not killing puppies, like what's even sadder than killing puppies?
Kittens?
Children? Human kittens? Human children, perhaps?
Oh, how many children do you want to see dead? Like, how many children are we talking about here?
Well, actually, in America, there was hundreds of mass shootings last year, but 2 in particular made our top 10 list.
Okay, this is going to be a weird one because I have to be honest. Even though I am right on the freaking border, and literally probably 3/4 of all of the entertainment and all of the news sources and all of the TV channels and radio stations and everything that we receive comes from your home. It is my sad opposite of a privilege to have to say that even here in Canada, right on the border, when you guys continue to have these incredible mass shootings, we don't even hear about it. We just don't even know. We were saddened more than you could imagine for years, and now we're just numb. And it doesn't even make the news. So if you tell me that 2 grade schools went to war against each other and 100 children were killed, we probably didn't even hear about it because it was just, another mass shooting in America, sad to say. No offense.
Hey, you don't have to say no offense to me because I'm offended. It infuriates me that it's so commonplace here. And there was one that was right across the border from you in Maine. It happened in October.
Okay, so yeah, you say that, and then you say, oh, there's one that happened right across the border from you. Buffalo Tops shooting happened even closer.
Oh yeah.
And that was, I think that just went to trial now.
A few years. It happened a few years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was very targeted. The Maine shooting was the bowling alley on Children's Night, I believe, was shot up.
Yeah, so it says this is October 2023. This is number 7 on the list, the Maine shooting. 40-year-old Robert Card fatally shot 18 people and injured 13 others during a spree shooting at 2 locations in Lewiston, Maine. The first mass shooting was at the Just-in-Time Recreation Bowling Alley during a youth league event, and the second occurred minutes later at the Shemenji's Bar and Grill. Don't know if I'm saying that right. After
sure?
Card fled the scene, that's the guy, Robert Card fled the scene, an intensive manhunt commenced when the Androscoggin County Sheriff's Office released a photo of him as the suspect. According to Wired, right after the shooting, social media platforms such as TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter were flooded with disinformation about Card. This included false claims that he had been arrested and was no longer at large. Some stated inaccurately, based on information about someone else with the same name, that Robert Card was arrested in 2016 for possessing and disseminating sexually explicit materials, which is not true. There were also claims that he was a supporter of Hamas. Finally, he was found dead on October 27th, that's 2 days after the shooting, from a self-inflicted gunshot wound in a tractor trailer near a recycling center in Lisbon, Maine, where he had recently worked. He killed 18 people, but nope, it's the 10th deadliest in U.S. shooting, but it is the deadliest in Maine history.
I was going to say there's only about 130,000 people living in all of Maine, to my knowledge.
I love Maine too, and it makes me sad that so many people died there for no reason.
Quite literally. But you said there were 2 shootings on this list.
Yep. There's another one right behind it at number 8.
And Tops was not the one.
No, this one was in Tennessee.
Big city, little city, Nashville?
Yep, Nashville. It's number 8, the Nashville shooting. On March 27th, a mass shooting occurred at the Covenant School, a Presbyterian elementary school in the Green Hills neighborhood of Nashville, when 28-year-old Aiden Hale, a former student of the school, killed 3 9-year-old children and 3 adults before being shot and killed by 2 Metropolitan Nashville Police Department officers. The students who died were Evelyn DeCoss, I don't know how to say her last name, William Kinney, and Hallie Scruggs. They were all 9 years old. Staff killed included a substitute teacher, Cynthia Peak. Can you imagine? You're going into sub at this school, and the next thing you're getting gunned down. A custodian, Mike Hill, and the head of the school, Catherine Kuntz. It is the deadliest mass shooting in Tennessee history. So some interesting notes here. By 10:27 a.m., 14 minutes after the initial 911 call, Hale, the shooter, Aiden Hale, was dead. So from the time of the call to the time they got there and found them dead was 14 minutes, which I thought was pretty good response time. In total, Hale fired more than 150 rounds. It's actually quite remarkable that they didn't kill more people than just 6.
See, and the two sad takeaways for me is that I don't even know if I knew about this one. It only vaguely rings a bell in the back of my mind, just to reiterate just how commonplace and sad this has become. And the second thing is, when you referred to it having a pretty good response time, and the fact that you can look at the data and say, ooh, they got to that school shooting real quick. That's great. Because sometimes they don't. And it's weird to even have an opinion on that kind of thing. To be able to form an opinion on that kind of a thing is just...
But that's where we're stuck at in this fucking country, because gun laws, despite hundreds of mass shootings a year, in this country. They're so commonplace. Pretty much every day in this country, there's a school shooting, almost. Gun laws are not getting better, at least not at a quick enough rate. So the next best thing we can hope for is better response times, because our U.S. government has basically given up on, well, let's do something about the guns. Now let's just see if we can. The shootings are going to happen. We can't stop them from happening. It's a mental health problem. So now all we can focus on is getting the police there as quickly as possible to minimize the amount of casualties, which is a bullshit, backwards approach, but that's where we are.
It seems you talk about gun laws, and I mean, lots of people talk about gun laws, but we have a saying in Canada. It's like a mantra. When it comes to things like this, you can't put the syrup back in the bottle.
It's a very Canadian.
You're just going to get sticky. Very Canadian saying.
But I get it's true.
I just mean it to say that you could pass the strictest gun laws in the world tomorrow, and it may have an effect, but it won't have an effect immediately. And I don't know how long, and the effect might just be a reduction, but it'll never be an elimination.
No, I think we're far too gone to hope for an elimination. All we can hope for is a reduction, and the reduction will probably be slow at first, but gradually over time. Maybe my great-great-grandkids can go to school without being afraid of getting shot. So, yeah, I don't have the answers.
It's way more likely that your great-great-grandkids will simply have to opt into a subscription for a force field that they wear on their way to work and back, or at school and back, I should say.
Yeah, for the billionaires can afford that. My kids will not be wearing a force field, I'm sure. But
you don't fix problems, you find ways to monetize them.
Yes. This force field to protect your child from being shot on their way to school is sponsored by TJ Maxx.
There you go.
It has the logo right on it. But you said this shooting rang a bell faintly in the back of your head. Tell me if this rings some extra bells. This one got a little extra media attention here because it's called the transgender shooting. Because the shooter...
That was in a school, though, yes?
Yeah, this is the school that the shooter went to the school they used to attend. They were 28 years old when they did this. The school they used to attend was a religious school, and that's where they did the killing. And this person is a transgender male, I believe born as a woman and later became a male. And that's what the media really clung to and latched onto with this. And all the Republicans are like, see, all these transgender people are going around killing all of our kids. Meanwhile, it's almost always single white males.
Yeah, I did see that, and kind of the 30,000-foot view of it as a non-American, and not really delving into the story, but just getting the quick, headlines of different people and their pundits and their takes on it. And my takeaway was, you have a shooting like this, with some unusual variables like this, and people don't even know what they're supposed to be mad at. Is it gender identity? Is it gun laws? Is it people were all over the place with here's what was wrong. And again, to my earlier point, thank God there were so many experts on the internet. I have full confidence that they will figure this out for us, because they sound very well versed. Their opinions sound like really, just really worth every penny.
Yep. Yeah. Where would we be without those experts on the internet, Brad? I really don't know.
Space, I think. That's going to be my next question. Do any of these stories happen to take place in space?
You have one left, and we're going to end on the most positive note possible among these.
And I think I know what it might be.
It's number 9.
Well, I think I have 2 ideas.
Go ahead.
Does it have anything to do with the James Webb Telescope? Nope. Does it have anything to do with the moon?
Yes.
Okay. I already know what this is. I feel like I know what this is, but I want to know, where on the list is this?
Number 9.
I'm going to say it's India landing on the far side of the moon.
India landing on the far side of the moon is number 9 from the Chandrayaan-3. That's the
name of the
rover. I don't
rover.
know if I'm saying it right, but that's the Chandrayaan-3 is the third mission in the Chandrayaan program, a series of lunar exploration missions developed by the Indian Space Research Organization. It was launched from Satish Dhawan Space Center on July 14th, 2023.
You're doing so good.
The spacecraft touched down near the lunar South Pole on 23rd of August, making India the 4th country to successfully land on the moon and the first to do so near the lunar South Pole. So help me, it's the 4th country to do this. We had America, Russia, China.
Yeah.
Is that it? And then India. The Associated Press said the successful mission showcases India's rising standing as a technology and space powerhouse.
Well, that is true, and they do have the manpower and the brain power for it. I heard The reason this sticks out of my head is because just this week, they were talking about this mission and how important it is that it's the only time that anybody has been to the dark side of the moon, and how little we understand it, but how important it'll be to our future as far as launching bases, refueling centers where we're going to find water. And they said that when you think of a planet if you think of a planetoid that's kind of tidally locked with us, so we only ever see the one side of it as it goes around. We always just see the same thing.
Yeah.
Think of a planet like Mercury. It's got one flaming hot ass side and one cold side.
Flaming
and
hot
yet
ass.
somehow
Yes.
the dark side of the moon, in the craters in the dark side of the moon, is colder than it is on Mercury. It's like the coldest part of it. It's colder than Pluto. It's the coldest thing that we've found so far. And it's just right there. It's a 3-day trip. So there's a lot we don't know. And this is like the first big steps towards us becoming like a multi-planetary species, is our ability to just put stuff on the moon and then send it from there, because it's easier than sending it from here. So I could see it as a good story, and nobody died that was reported. Didn't land on anything that they disclosed.
It was kind of lost on me doing the research, the significance of it, until you kind of put it into context there. That is interesting to think about that.
Well, I mean, that's pretty much the motto of my show. Prepare to have context. Every listener knows. Just
so much context. It's great.
I can't shut up about it.
It's so contextual, as in sexual. Okay, that's a bad one.
And I was just going to say context boner. It's a new shirt I'm going to make. Context boner.
I've had a lot of boners on this episode today. That is my first context boner of the day, though.
Well, we have talked about a lot of school shootings, so okay.
No. The first boner came from your very dainty, polite booty clap.
Oh, that?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was having trouble getting out of my pants, so I guess I was.
You never did put the pants back on, by the way.
No, they're over there. They're fine. The back of the bus.
Well, we did it. Let's go back through the top 10. There's actually one more honorable mention that I'll mention quickly. This did not make the top 10 worldwide, but it did make the top 10 looking specifically at American Google traffic. It's the Idaho murder trial. If you remember, in November 2022, 4 University of Idaho students were fatally stabbed in an off-campus residence in Moscow, Idaho. 28-year-old Brian Christopher Koberger was arrested in Monroe County, Pennsylvania on 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary. Prosecutors are seeking the death penalty. His trial was happening this year. So there. I didn't end on a happy note with the space mission. I ended on that. Fuck you. All right, here's the real top 10. The war in Sudan. I wasn't going to let you have any happiness.
Good times.
9,
go on.
The Chandrayaan Indian space lunar missions. Number 8.
Let's assume that there were some people who were burnt out from the workload who are currently suffering.
Of course, yeah.
So, okay, we found the gray lining. Keep going.
Yeah, and if you want, I can find more true crime cases that I can bring
for the next visit.
Shootings. Okay.
Yeah, just the next top 10 list of things that I've never heard of. I can't wait.
Great. 8 was the Nashville shooting. 7, the Maine shooting. 6, Hurricane Lee. 5, Hurricane Adelia. 4, Hurricane Hillary. 3, the Turkey earthquake, or the deadliest natural disaster in modern history. Number 2, the Titanic, or Ocean-Gate submarine. And number 1, the war in Israel and Gaza.
Good times. What a year. I'm glad it's over.
Brad,
didn't I say when we first talked about this episode that I couldn't wait to put a bullet in the head of 2023, and you agreed? And then you drank an entire bottle of Hennessy right in front of me?
Yep.
And I don't even know where it went because you didn't urinate for the rest of the night?
Yep, I remember that. Was that tonight?
No, that was a little while ago. I don't know what you're drinking tonight that you can't remember, but
Hennessy, I do it every night.
I have to assume all those little red Solo cups in front of you have to have something in them.
This is bullshit, because of the two of us, you're the only one that has held up a red Solo cup on this episode. I have not. We talked about space and landing on the moon. Would you agree that being an astronaut sounds a lot more exciting and looks a lot more exciting on, say, a movie than in real life?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you could agree on that, because I want to remind folks that our newest bonus episode is out now, where me and Dr. Buster discuss the top 10-ish things that are way more exciting in movies than in real life, such as an astronaut or being a spy. You think being a spy is exciting? You're wrong. You can get the full list of this bonus episode right now for 10ish Pod Plus members. Go to 10ishpod.com/plus, get a free 7-day trial, and you'll also get ad-free access to all of our main episodes, like the one you're listening to now.
I love it. And that's a good suggestion. And a nice early Christmas present for 2024.
Christmas 2024.
Early.
Yep.
Orthodox Christmas is coming up. Do you have any Orthodox Christmas?
Tennis Pod Plus membership makes a great Christmas in January gift, for sure.
There you go. Yeah.
We all got Christmas on the minds, for sure, here in late January. Brad, we can't leave. First of all, you're welcome for such an uplifting, positive, influential, inspirational episode.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
And where can we get more inspiration on your podcast?
Literally anywhere podcasts are found. If you are interested, and you should be, if you are interested in what Nick is trying to do to you, simply go to your podcast provider of choice and search for History's Most Dangerous Podcast. It's called Doomsday, but there's a lot of podcasts named Doomsday. So yeah, it's a good place to come and just feel better about your chances in this world.
When we hang out.
So that just happened. Yes, please come to my show. There's no swearing on it. There's opportunities for violence. There's opportunities to feel ill about what you're hearing. However, personalized autographed barf bags are, as always, available upon request. And in the newest episode that has just dropped, it is about a grasshopper apocalypse.
Of course.
Say that once. And I am sending free grasshoppers to anyone who would like to join the listenership of my show as we all dine on freeze-dried, potentially chocolate-covered grasshopper together in celebration of this really disturbing episode.
I don't like the way you included the word potentially chocolate-covered. Like, if I'm going to eat a frozen, freeze-dried grasshopper, like...
You just want it as is?
There has to be chocolate on. Like, there's no question. There has to be. And that's if I even do it at all. But yeah.
I'm literally going to take a grasshopper, melt some chocolate, dip it feet first into it, and just make it look like it's wearing little chocolate slippers and send it to you somehow.
That's cute. That's cute. Just, you don't have to send it. Just bring it with you when you come down from Canada.
Sweet.
Yeah. Well, I do sincerely hope everyone will check out Doomsday, History's Most Dangerous Podcast. It's one of my favorites, and there's a link in the show notes if you want a shortcut to go directly to Brad's website where you can learn more about it. Bradley, it's been a thing that happened that you were here today.
I agree, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Nick.
And from one chocolate-covered grasshopper leg fan to another, thank you for being here, and I'll see all the listeners on the flip side.